Hey, it's your boy Picante Nino coming at you with another YouTube video. This YouTube video is going to be different from all my other gaming stuff, and we're going to start talking about cybersecurity stuff. The only reason that I was gone for such an extended amount of time is because I was locked in trying to get the GIAC Security Essentials certification. And honestly, I didn't find any resources on how to pass this test. There's some videos making it very vague, and honestly, I just wanted some type of guide in what way so that you could accomplish this in a reasonable fashion. So I just want to show you guys the steps that I did. I want to give you my own experience and what I've been through to accomplish this. So let's jump into it. Okay, before we even get into the specifics, let me tell you my background when it comes to cybersecurity and my education when it comes to that. I went to college and I ended up studying computer science of engineering, and I did have a concentration in cybersecurity. Graduating from there, I do have industry experience almost close to 5 years. I wouldn't say that I am not a beginner, and I wouldn't say that I am advanced. I would say I'm barely on the brink of entering into the average of being intermediate to almost the advanced level when it comes to the general landscape of cybersecurity. My strong suit is product security and firewall and networking. Those are my two strong suits when it comes to basically the cybersecurity field. Everything else, I am either working on a beginner level, and I wouldn't have anything else to note of when it comes to my other skills. I do have a good amount of Linux experience. I'm pretty sure anyone who has or is interested in cybersecurity knows a good amount of Linux. I feel like that's one of the requirements before you even attempt to look at this. Before you even attempt to look at this certification, it is implied, or heavily implied, that you know how to at least CD and LS and copy a file into another file, and basically just know basic commands of how to navigate through a Linux system before you even take a look at this exam. It should take you like a good 15 minutes. And it's one of those skills that you build over time. But yeah, that's basically how my experience is when it comes to the cybersecurity overall in general. I did get over a 90% on this exam, and let me show you guys how I did it. But before I even tell you guys this, let's basically get into what is, or what do you get whenever you sign up for the GIAC Cybersecurity Essentials. So yeah, let's just jump into it. Okay, so let's talk about what actually comes with the course/exams. So the package that I got ended up coming with several things. And let's show you guys what it came with. So it came with textbooks and a PDF, videos with chapter exams, which is really important, an audio version of your textbooks quotations. The reason why I say quotations is it's not one-to-one. And then you get 2 practice exam attempts and 1 exam attempt. And let me show you guys how these books look like, just to give you an idea. So you do get 6 basically subject books. You get 6 of these things, and then you also get 2 big fat workbooks that come inside this box that they send you. This box right here is stupid important, okay? This is what you need to do to basically pass the test, because the test is an open book, open note exam. The reason why it is like that is that this is a lot of information. I believe my version of the tests and the textbooks was about 2,800 pages altogether. Textbooks and workbooks, okay? So that is basically the gist of what you get. You get 2 practice exams, and you're going to use them, okay? Use these practice exams and take them very, very seriously. But we'll get into that later. I just wanted to show you guys what you guys get whenever you take this exam. So basically, you get this bundle if you have the same, if you got the same bundle as I did. And just so you know, in general, the textbooks and the 2 workbooks, I feel like you could, if you just had only this right here, you will do amazing. The rest is just extra gravy on top when it comes to the videos and audio. So I'm talking about the practice exams are a must, in my opinion. I feel like if you don't have practice exams, I feel like it will be very hard to ace this exam. So yeah, just in general, textbooks, practice exam, exam. The other two videos and audios, you could kind of skip over, but I don't recommend it because any information that you have on this, the better you are going to do. So any information you could soak up and soak up like a sponge, it actually helps instead of actually like hurting you. So yeah, let's just jump into how I actually parse through these textbooks and exactly the logistics of how to pass this exam. Okay, so let's start off with planning. Whenever you sign up for the GIAC certification, you basically are on a timer of about 3 months with all your material that they give you, excluding your textbooks. So like the videos, your exams, your practice exams, are all going to expire in about 3 months. So what I suggest that you do is basically count down the amount of days that you have before the exam. So let's say hypothetically your exam is right here on this day, and you have 8 books, so you're going to count the amount of pages per day that you need to read and go through before the exam day. Usually I like to leave about 2 weeks for my practice exam. So I take my practice exam this week, this day, and then I also take my practice exam on the weekend of this day. And then we have a week to study for the exam. So that means on the weekend, you take a practice exam, and then you wait a week, you take the other practice exam, and then on the Friday of the same week, you take the exam. That's the way how I did it, and I feel like that's the way to go because everything's so fresh in your head, and it gives you time during these days to write down anything you missed between the practice exams, because they're going to give you questions that are very similar to the actual exam itself. So whenever I'm practicing for my practice exams, I use this time to just basically write down any last minute notes and anything that I have, okay? But the most important thing you need to do, write down number of pages per day from your textbooks. And then you gotta give yourself at least like a 1 or 2 week buffer because life happens during these 3 months. Okay? I got sick between taking this exam, and it actually threw me off by a whole week. So on the end of my deadline, I was struggling to like catch up on my studying, and it was horrible because I ended up doing like 25 pages a day, and that didn't fall through because I got sick, and also like a couple of holidays passed by, so I didn't want to study during a holiday with my family. So I ended up during the last couple of weeks doing 50 pages a day of note-taking and absorbing, and it was not fun. So make sure that your planning allows for at least 1 to 2 weeks of buffer time so that you don't end up like me reading 50 pages a day and taking notes, because that takes a long time. I think what I had planned initially for my 2800 pages was about 25 to 30 pages a day, which took me about, I would say, like anywhere between 2 hours to 4 hours a day of studying for these whole 3 months. And you're gonna be like, whoa, that's a lot of studying. Yeah, it is, but the thing is that you're not only just reading, you're also taking notes, you're indexing, and all that jazz. But make sure that this step right here, the planning step, is 100% accounted for, okay? Because this right here will make it or break it for you, because once you start getting to the last 2 weeks, it's actually really stressful because the first practice exam tells you how ready you are, and the second practice exam basically tells you if you're going to pass the final exam. So you leaving enough time so you can actually fix yourself on the first exam when you go to the second exam. So hopefully that helps out with planning. That's how I did it. And honestly, 1 week to 2 week buffer, because life happens. Sometimes, you know, a really important event you have to go to, or you just want to hang out, or you're just burnt out. I got burnt out twice of studying per day on doing the GIAC exam, because studying for 3 to 4 hours a day is kind of, I don't know how people do it, man, especially if they have a family. But yeah, we can move on to exactly what I did when it comes to taking notes and indexing. Okay, so taking notes and indexing, there's at least a couple of things you need to do to prepare yourself to actually get your notes indexed. So whenever I say indexing, you're basically making like a little mini dictionary of stuff that you could easily reference at a moment's notice when you don't know the specific answer to a couple of things. So whenever you get your books, you're just basically waiting until your books come in, because if you try to do anything else, like try to get a head start by reading like the PDFs, you're gonna go nowhere, because you need to actually physically index your books so that you can reference them during the exam, because it's an open notes and open book exam. So first, whenever you get your books, give every book a color. Okay? Whenever you get a book, color every chapter. And then what I mean by color every chapter, let me go to my big face cam real quick, is that each of these little tabs right here, you're going to need a bunch of these little tabs on top of a lot of highlighters. So each of these tabs are basically each individual chapter within the book. So whenever I see my indexes, I could just easily go to the chapter. Oh, it's in the blue chapter. Let me pull that. Now I'm in my blue chapter and now I'm ready to go. As you guys can see, there's some highlighting stuff. I don't want to show you the information inside of this stuff because obviously I can't share exactly the specifics or the exact material, but I can show you what I have done. So whenever you get your books, you're going to start reading through them. So you're going to read through your books, read through books, indexing them, along with watching the videos. So you're going to be following along the videos while you're reading. Now you're going to be like, okay, Picante, well, how do I index my notes? I know I never heard of this term called indexing. Indexing is important. This is, if you have a bad index system, you're not going to quickly find where your information is at. This exam is 4 hours, 110 questions. You are going to need every single millisecond of this exam, okay? You're going to read through every book, indexing them along with watching the videos, and it's really important for your index to be amazing so you can find everything very, very cleanly. And what I do to index, I like to do this. I like to basically, let me move this down. I like to basically give the book number. So we're on book 1. We're going to give page number. We're going to give notes number, notes page number, and then color of highlighter. Because there are multiple things that you want to take notes of on the same page. It isn't just going to be one highlighter. If you're using one highlighter color, then you're inting, basically, to put it simply. I don't know how else to say it. So it should look like this. So if I want to do book 1, page 130 or 125, and then right here, it's going to be notebook number. Let's see, notebook page 5, followed by what highlighter I use. So let's do a orange highlighter. So now we have basically our index. So whenever I say my index, now I know that whatever subject I have, so subject, let's do online attacks, right? So now I know that it's my book number, followed by the subject, and then if you really want to be extra, at the end you can have chapter, right? So this will be the blue chapter, which is online, you know, attacks. Something like that, right? So this is how your index will look like. Let me show you an example of how my index looks like. So let me put on my big face cam. So these are my physical indexes that I have. So right here on the right hand side, you can see the book color followed by my index numbers, followed by the subject, followed by the chapter, and then the color of the chapter. So this is chapter yellow. So that means whenever I pull out my book right here, okay, this is the yellow chapter. So I open up my book on the yellow chapter and I'm there. I'm ready. I have the information. So now I'm not fumbling through all the page numbers. I could just literally just go to the book and grab it. So that's why you do indexing. Now here's another cool thing too, because You'd be like, well, how do you do that? Well, there's Microsoft Excel, dude. There's Microsoft Excel. So this is how I do it. So the A column would be your book index. This would be the subject / chapter. And then this is how I would do it. Go here. So my index is going to be book 5, page 226. My textbook, my notebook is right here, followed by yellow highlighter. And then right here, we're going to do online networks. And then this is going to be under the VPN chapter. And then right here, you could just color whatever color you want. So right here, online networks. And then this one's going to be book 5, which is blue. And then no, boom, I have it. Cool, right? That's literally as easy as it gets. So that's how you're going to do it. That's how an index looks like. And at the very end, you're just going to have a bunch of these little indexes. And you're basically going to make it look like this. You're going to basically look like this. This, what I have right here, my index was about 3,500 terms long. So basically, it's going to be all the way down to 3,500 terms. Yes, make sure whenever you're doing the index, you got to make sure that you got to find it very, very easily. So it's okay if you like copy the same thing twice and reword it the way how it is to like actually find it easier. So if you do online networks, but you're like, okay, well, networks online, sometimes whenever you see it, now you have both of these. So now you have 2 entries of online networks, VPN, and networks online. Basically, it's the same thing. Just make sure that it makes sense to you. And if you're looking at a topic, make sure that if you think of the topic, that is exactly what you put right here. Because you're going to be flipping through this at a moment's notice without you knowing anything. And you're just going to be like, oh yeah, that belongs to FTP. And you're going to be like, okay, FTP. And just keep in mind, at the very end, once you're getting ready to print this out, you're going to put everything in ABC order. So that means like everything's going to be in ABC order. So like right here, I have little tabs going down. Well, let me go to my big face cam. Right here, you're going to have every single tab going down, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So if I'm looking for FTP, I would literally pull the F tab and everything is all right here in my Fs. Okay? So that's basically everything that I'm going to go through when it comes to indexing. Indexing is stupid important if you want to pass. If you have a bad index, you're not going to pass this exam. The index is basically what saves you the most amount of time. If you don't have an index, that means you are like some voodoo god that literally reads something once and has it in their head for eternity. We are human. There's only so much that we could remember. And sometimes there's very hyper-specific stuff that like you cannot remember at a moment's notice unless you have been doing it for ages and ages and ages. And we are just merely mortals, and we can't really remember that much unless you live and breathe cybersecurity. Which, honestly, we're all human, we all have a life, and we like to have fun, which means we don't do cybersecurity every single moment of our lives. But yeah, that's basically how you index. Along the terms of taking notes while you're reading through the videos, at the end of every video, there is an exam. So at the end of every video, there is a chapter exam. So the chapter exams for videos basically tell you how well you have indexed. Okay, if you fail the chapter exam on the video, if you don't get over an 80%, you want over an 80% on your video chapter exam. Okay, if you don't have that, that means your index and the notes that you took suck. Basically, they suck. You need to get at least an 80% on your chapter exams whenever you do the video exams. If you don't do that, then you're indexing, you're missing stuff in your index, like pretty obviously. And just so you know, the chapter exams for the video questions have nothing to do with your practice exams or your exam attempt. They have nothing to do with it. So don't take these questions from the chapter exams on the videos to be exactly what you're looking for on the exam. The questions are completely different, okay? So don't think of it like that. The only way you should use this for is a guidance to see how well your index is. Because they're going to be asking you stupid, specific questions on these practice exams that have to deal, for these chapter exams that have to deal with exactly the words that are in your books. Usually whenever you look at the questions for the practice exam and the exam in general, those two are the same, but not the video exams. They're not the same. It just tells you how well your index is. If you can't find the answer in your index, it will show you exactly where the answer is derived from within your course material, which is a good thing. I do credit SANS for that, making it good and easy for that. But yeah, that's how I studied and did my indexing for everything. There's also a really good web article called GIAC Testing with Pancakes. That's basically how I got this indexing from. I got it from her, and I kind of just put my own little spin on it. So basically, I want you guys to use almost the exact same thing. You can use the exact same thing. Just do whatever works for you. And just letting you know, like, I did take a couple of notes for my notebook pages, but honestly, like, during the end, I kind of just left them as XX because I didn't have no notebook pages because it was already in the book. So there wasn't no reason to, like, put them in. But yeah, it doesn't need to be exactly, but as long as you do this and you actually make a really damn good index, then you can easily go into the test with confidence and actually find the stuff within a reasonable amount of time. Okay, so now we could go into basically the order of what you should study. So let's jump into that. Okay, so before we get into it, I definitely do want to give a shout out to Pancakes. So this is basically the little article that she has written that I have used during the time to actually like get this idea of how to index. Because basically I learned how to index from this article that she has written. So if you just Google better GIAC testing with Pancakes, it should be like literally the first thing that pops up. But I will provide the link to this below into the video description. But yeah, it just basically has what you need to know, blah, blah, blah. Here's the little tabs, what you really need, which is exactly what we went over. And then the indexing system, which is basically what I gotten from this article. And it basically has the same format that I told you, but a little bit less and straight to the point, just book number, page number, and so on and so forth. And they actually tell you how to basically sort each column ABC order before you print it out. And then it tells you exactly how to print it out and how it looks like. So shout out to Pancakes for providing this and helping the community actually get these certifications in a reasonable way, and also giving the God tips on how to index. Because I swear to you guys, before this exam, I didn't know what the hell indexing was, believe it or not. I am gonna raise up my hand and admit it, because I never took an exam that was open book and open notes, and I had just a massive amount of information. So I am very grateful for this article to be existing. Thank you, Pancakes, for releasing this, definitely. And I really hope that my video helps you guys actually ace this exam as well. But yeah, let's move on to the order of what you should be doing. So the order of what you should be doing should be read your books, read and index your books while taking your exams, right? While taking video exams. This should honestly be your main focus for like the first couple of months, for the first month and a half. Okay? You're going to read through your books, and then in your books there's going to be basically workbook chapters. So there's basically a workbook at the end of every chapter, a workbook chapter at the end of every chapter. I would avoid these. Avoid until end. Do not touch your workbook. Do not look at your workbook until the very end. And the reason why I say this is because the workbook questions on the exam, I believe, it's not confirmed, but I believe that the workbook chapters or the workbook questions that they give you in the virtual machines with the exams, they're worth a lot of damn points. In my personal experience, from taking 2 practice exams and taking the final exam. I believe that the workbooks and the modules that the workbooks provide, they're worth a lot of damn points. And just letting you know, take just avoid the workbooks until the very end of your studying. So whenever you get to your 3 months, this should be basically your subject books, right? And then these last 2 weeks right here, these last 2 weeks, or I would say 3 weeks, the last 3 weeks that you have, let's mark these in, let's say green. Let's mark these in green. So the last 3 weeks should be only workbooks. So it should only be workbooks. You should only be taking notes on workbooks on the last couple of weeks, because that means that all the steps and all the tools are fresh in your head. But let's say hypothetically, right? Let's say hypothetically that you have gotten these workbooks and you're working with them in the sequential order that the books give it to you. You're gonna be like this. There we go. So it's gonna be like this. Oh no, I'm like dying over here. This thing is fighting me. So right here, you're gonna be studying, and then you're gonna hit hold on. There we go. You're gonna hit a workbook right here, and then you're gonna hit a workbook right here, and then you're just gonna keep on going at the end of everything, and then you're just gonna have workbooks. But then whenever you get to the exam, which is right here, or your practice exams, you're not gonna remember whatever is happening right here. And just so you know, I believe that the workbook questions for the virtual machines are worth a lot of points. So at the end of the stuff, you should just honestly do this. At the end, just stack all of your workbooks at the very end. So you're just gonna be workbook, 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 and then workbook, and then you take your practice exam, and you're just like, hell yeah, I knew what I was doing for the last 10 questions of the exam, because I ended up taking all the workbooks, and then it's really easy to look up. I'm gonna mark this in yellow. It's really easy to reference your book material because it's all indexed. And just saying, you know, you are gonna index your workbooks as well, but the thing is, it's really easy just to look up a single definition in a book, then actually look up steps and sequences and what to do with a specific program, and know what program you're supposed to use in a specific use case for a specific problem, than just looking up a definition. Okay? So that's what I'm meaning. So these need to be like literally fresh in your head. Literally fresh in your head, these workbooks. In my opinion, I don't know how people have, if you start doing your workbooks along with your actual textbooks, I don't know how you're going to remember the steps and knowing what programs exist and which ones that are used for which problems, honestly. So yeah, just make sure you save your workbooks for last. Save your workbooks for last. That is really important. I know that people would suggest to take your workbooks along with the material that you're learning, so it makes a lot more sense. But trust me, the workbooks, they're kind of they're rough. Out of everything that's provided by GIAC and this course, the workbooks are my least favorite. I believe they're poorly written. I believe that instead of providing a damn workbook, they should just have a video tutorial of a person explaining and taking their time and explaining why this program is good. Because honestly, the workbook is just like, here's some steps, here's the program, here's this hypothetical scenario that we just made up that makes no damn sense. Here are the steps, this is what we did, this is how you filter for X, Y, and Z, this is how you get a file that is hidden, blah, 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 and here are the steps. And you're just like, oh, wow, that's kind of, I don't know what's happening, you know? So I feel like the workbooks are the weakest part, but they are worth a lot of points. So get familiar with the workbooks. And honestly, I'm just going to take a guess. I believe that the workbook questions are about, I would say upwards close to 50% of what your overall exam is. So yeah, I find it crazy. I might be wrong. I don't know the grading system of it. But I believe, I'm going to guess that each question that has a virtual machine tied to it that it's referencing a workbook stuff is about 5 points of your overall score. And there's about 10 questions on the exam that have virtual machines. So 10 times 5 is 50. So that means 50% of it's coming from your workbook, and then 50% of it is coming from your textbooks. So it's a lot easier to get one question right that counts for about multiple questions from your textbook. Even though your textbook questions, they are pretty challenging at sometimes, but I'd rather get a easy 50% from doing my virtual machine stuff, because you actually could ace those. The workbook stuff and the virtual machine stuff isn't that hard. It's not that hard, but the thing is that whenever they ask you something for a virtual machine question, it's not exactly one-to-one with the workbook, so you're gonna have to do a little bit extra digging on that. But yeah, back to the main subject. The order of what you do: read the index while taking videos, workbook chapters at the very end. This is really important so they could be fresh whenever you take your practice exams leading into the actual final exam. Once you do that, you're going to be taking your practice exams, right? So practice exam 1, PE 1. You know, you're going to have a lot of stuff, have a lot of missing indexes. Practice exam 2, you should have mostly everything you need. This should be true whenever you take both of these. During the time between the practice exam, and the practice exam 2, you're going to be taking more notes. You're just going to be taking more notes of what you don't have. And usually what you want to see whenever you do the practice exam 1, I expect anywhere from a 0 to 100, right? This doesn't matter at all. This is just you understanding, like, hey, this is what the exam is going to look like. You're going to be shell-shocked at first. Because whenever I took the first practice exam, I was like, oh, damn, I don't know what I'm doing. My notes are not good enough. I'm going to fail, blah, blah, blah. The timing and all that jazz, it really gets to you. So the first practice exam, don't take the score too literally. You're going to do bad. You're going to do horrible, okay? And don't get discouraged by this. Whenever I took my first practice exam, I got an 85, which I was like, damn, I thought I did really bad. But the thing is that it's very common for people to have bad practice exam 1s because, number 1, it's the timing of the exam, and number 2, it is basically the pressure, and you don't know what's in it, and then also, like, how well your indexes are. So if your indexes are rock solid, then you should have an easy time with practice exam 1. But the thing is, the one that really matters is practice exam 2. Practice exam 2 really matters. You basically want to take this as the real test. As a real test. You want to treat this as close as the real test as possible. Okay? And depending on what you get here, this tells you, I would say, within an 80% factor of what the actual final outcome is going to be. Because you're already so close to the exam day. That's the way how I like to do it. You read your books, then workbooks after. So you textbooks, workbooks after, practice exam 1, practice exam 2, and then your actual test. So that's how I did it. And honestly, like, that worked out really good for me because the workbooks, I think, really, really helped. Doing the workbooks, I feel like this is the biggest, this right here is the biggest tip that I believe I could give you guys, is just save the workbooks for last. Because you're gonna need to remember these steps because you only have 4 hours to take the exam. You have 4 hours, and the thing is that it's 110 questions and 10 questions of VM, a virtual machine. And the virtual machine questions, I like to leave myself like about an hour and 30. An hour and 30 for these 10 questions, for the VM questions, okay? An hour and 30 for these questions. So that means you only have like 2 hours and 30 or something like that to knock out your textbook questions while you have this open. So you can actually like slow down and actually digest it, because I feel like these questions are worth a lot of points, and then you gotta be wanting to throw away the test if you don't study your workbooks, honestly. So yeah, let's jump into basically the logistics of the exams and how you should be timing yourself and all that jazz. So let's jump into that. Okay, one more tip about your workbook and your textbook indexes. So I highly recommend that you have a textbook index and a workbook index. You're going to want to keep these two separate because it reduces the amount of time that it is sifting through information that could easily just be held into another index. What I mean by that is that on the exams, the exam is split into two sections. One of them is the textbook multiple choice, and the end of the exam is your virtual machine workbook questions. So that's why it's a lot easier just to have a whole, index like your workbook one that just only has workbook stuff, so you aren't sifting through it all in one big dumb fat index. You're going to keep these separate so you have a shorter time flipping through pages and finding exactly what you need. I don't need to know about what port FTP is on in my workbook, but I definitely do want to have the steps on how to find which ports are open using Nmap. So that's why you need to have two indexes that are separate. It makes it a lot easier whenever you're taking your exams. So let's jump into the logistics of how the exams are set up. So we're going to look at each exam. Each exam is about 4 hours long. Let me pick right here. So exams are 4 hours long, and they're about 110 questions. 10 of them are virtual machine workbook questions. The rest, the 100 of them, are textbook questions. Just keep in mind that this might change in the future due to which versions you're taking in the future. Let's say you're like 20 years in the future and you're wearing these weird space goggles. And this might change if GIAC is still around. They're always changing their stuff, but I'm just joking around a little bit. But yeah, this right here is basically the logistics and the sweet and simple of what I had to go through. So it might be similar, it might not. 4 hours, 110 questions, 10 of them are virtual machine workbook questions, and 100 of them are textbook questions. Depending on how good you are at the virtual machines will tell you how well and how much time you need to have between both of these sections. So for me, I didn't take that much good notes on my workbook stuff, but the thing is that if you leave me in front of a Linux system long enough, I will figure out a way how to use the program and get exactly what the question is asking. So that's why I left myself an hour and 30 for the workbook questions, for the virtual machine questions. I know that's a lot of time just to leave for only 10 questions, but the thing is that these questions are worth a lot, so you're going to want to take your time with the virtual machine questions. Okay? So whenever you work to your first practice exam, you're going to take your first practice exam, and all you're going to be doing is focusing on timing. That's all you're going to be focusing on. You're just going to be focusing on your timing the whole time because it's 4 hours, and if you actually don't time yourself perfectly, this whole test is going to fall apart on you. So one big tip that I could give you is that if you don't know almost immediately from looking at the question, skip it. Skip it. If you don't know almost immediately from looking at the question, skip it. It's not worth it. You could always go back to the question later at the end and answer it. But the thing is that these VM questions, they're worth a lot of points. Skipping one question that's going to eat a lot of your time on the virtual machine stuff, I'd rather miss a couple of textbook questions than miss one single virtual machine question just because I didn't have time to do it. You want to make sure that you have enough time to do your virtual machine questions and be satisfied with the result. Sometimes you just be like, damn, I can't solve this workbook question. I guess I'll get it wrong. That's fine. We all get those. I got a couple of those. So that's why you definitely want to leave yourself enough time for virtual machine questions. But yeah, you need to skip questions. Skipping questions is a must. You must do this. You are going to find out questions that are going to be... Basically, you're not going to know where to look until your brain is jogged a little bit, or you take a water break and you drink some water and you jog your memory a little bit just so you could get that new perspective. It is easy for you just to skip than to waste a lot of time, because this exam isn't really much about what you know and how you know it. It's more like, do you have enough experience and knowledge to find the answers that you're looking for in a reasonable amount of time? I'm not saying that knowledge and knowing stuff is worthless in this exam. It actually saves you a lot of time, because if you just look at a multiple choice question and you'd be like, okay, what is FTP? And you'd be like, okay, it's on this port. Boom, done. Question solved. Why do we use firewalls? Oh, there it is. What is isolated, environment? Oh, it's that, But if you're always looking through your indexes for every question that you see, you're going to be wasting time. Every time you look at your index, that should be the last thing you do, is look at your index, okay? You need to make sure that you could solve the question without opening your index. And if you need to open your index, then you need to open up your index and find it. That's why you make your index. But yeah, your index is going to be the main reason why you find questions that you don't know. And you're going to not know a lot of these things, because some of these things, they ask you super specific stuff like permissions and groups and OUs and AD and all this stuff. There's so much information you're not going to know, but the little information that you do keep is going to help you immensely. So the main reason why I did so good on the networking stuff is because I know how to penetrate, test firewalls, and know a good amount of networking. So whenever I got those questions, I didn't even have to open up my index. So that's all you want to focus on, is just timing. Timing on your first practice exam. On your second practice exam, print out everything. Like if you're going to take the real exam. You're gonna basically treat this like a real exam. Real exam time. Treat it like it. Okay? You're gonna treat the second practice exam like a real exam. No using your index on your other screen because you don't want to pay money to print it out. Trust me, whenever I printed out my indexes, it costed me $40 to print it out at UPS. Okay? So, yeah, you don't want to keep on printing out these things willy-nilly. But yeah, on the second practice exam, print it out, treat it like a real exam. Don't use your monitor. Don't use your monitors at all. Don't use them. Don't use them. Treat it like a real exam. Print out your damn indexes, for the love of God. Because this will give you an idea of how much time you are going through your indexes and be like, oh, damn, what page? What am I doing? Oh, I don't know how to turn these pages so well, but it's so easy just to scroll on your index over here using your little mouse and hitting Control F and typing in the stuff you're looking for. No, you gotta use your index on the practice exam too. And if you really want to be gung-ho, treat the first practice exam and actually print out your workbooks and your indexes on your first practice exam, and don't use your monitor to have your indexes, okay? I highly recommend don't use your monitor at all for any of these practice exams, because you are focusing on the timing. Timing is everything. Knowledge is second, okay? If you don't have enough time to answer and show your proficiency at this stuff, then it's all going to be thrown out the window. If you're not timing yourself correctly, you are basically throwing away the exam. I'm pretty sure if you're not that smart, and there's the person really smart, but they take their time, the person that's really smart and takes their time is going to fail the exam. Meanwhile, the person who is not that smart, but actually is timing themselves correctly, they'll get a higher score than the person who is really smart and takes their time. Because they could actually answer all the content and get through the exam without skipping anything and leaving anything blank in the end. So that's what I do when it comes to this. Have 2 indexes, one for your workbook and one for your textbook. And yeah, basically at the end, whenever you're trying to take the final exam, you have 2 options. Okay? You have 2 options to take. Either number 1, you could go and take it at home. You can take the test at home, but you have to download all this stuff onto your computer, all this monitoring software, and all this other jazz, so they can make sure that you're actually taking the test with integrity. And that I don't want you guys to go through that, because it's another mental stack of you having to download stuff and make sure that your infrastructure is working good. Let's say that your internet goes out for 5 minutes. That's something out of your control. This exam is too much of like it's a high priority for you to lose it due to something that's out of your control, right? But if you take the second option and go to a testing center, right? A testing center. If anything does happen in the testing center, it is up for them. It's up for these guys at the testing center to come up with a solution in case their infrastructure doesn't allow you to complete the exam. So that basically removes most of the stuff away from you. Like, let's say you got a random power outage. You do not want to be at home when you take a power outage, because that's going to be a very awkward conversation to like submit a support ticket to SANS for your GIAC certification, especially on the final day. You do not want that to happen. I don't wish this upon everyone. That is so supremely very bad luck. But if it happens and you're at a testing center, this basically removes the mental stack of worrying what's going to go on, because it's up to the testing center to basically aid you in taking this test, because they're the ones that are giving you the test, not you. So yeah, I highly recommend just go to a testing center, you schedule it, you go there, make sure that you're at least like an hour early for your test, because most of them require for you to get there an hour early. And honestly, I don't want to sound like your parents, but like, make sure you account for traffic and everything. It is a 4-hour exam, keep that in mind. It's a pretty hefty exam, and you're going to be there for a good amount of time, so make sure that you have, you know, the good amount of caffeine, and basically the will to drive and actually get this knocked out, and leave yourself a little bit of last-minute studying time before you take this exam whenever you're at the studying center. But yeah, that's exactly what I did when it came to the GIAC Security Essentials. That's what I did. And if you guys have any questions, hopefully this video helped you. If you have any questions, please reach out. The comments are down below. But yeah, I just made this video out of love. It's just so I could show those people who are... show the people who are going to be on my spot to take this exam. Because this exam was kind of like a requirement for my job. So if I didn't get this this certification, it was kind of like, okay, well, you did good, we'll see you on your way, you know. So yeah, there was a lot riding on this, so I did take it very seriously, and that's why I was gone for a good 3 months instead of making video game content for you guys. But now I'm happy to say that I am certified. I did get over 90% using these techniques, and I really hope that this helps you. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to help. I will not share any like specific information on the exams, but yeah, I would just give you exactly the way how I studied for it and prepared for it. But honestly, the biggest thing I could give you guys is just save your textbooks for last, save your workbooks for last, index like a pro, and time yourself correctly for these. Leave yourself 1 week of buffer time between each practice exam, so you can write down the stuff that you're missing. And then, yeah, your workbook questions. Leave a good amount of time for your workbook questions. And with that, you guys, I appreciate you guys watching the video. And if you guys are wanting to support me, this is going to be the time where if you guys want to support me, please subscribe. If not, please go to my Twitch and follow me on Twitch. And I appreciate the help. Thank you, guys.